The conflict brewing on Capitol Hill after 5,000 people showed up to rally against the Iran nuclear deal. The bill being debated in Congress and likely to pass. But a new poll shows that just 21% of Americans, look at that, 21% approve of the agreement. More than half of respondents are against it. Joining me now is Jim Walsh, MIT international security expert and research associate. Peter Brooks is back with us. And Nomiki Konst is president of the Accountability Project. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Jim Walsh, I know that you think that this deal is a good idea. Only 21% of Americans agree with you.
Yeah, well, I would say we've had a bunch of polls. We had a poll earlier this week from, I think it's PPP, came out with a very different result. I'm not a pollster, but from what I understand, the more you tell people, people don't know anything about a nuclear deal. So the more you tell them, as you give them more information about it in the question, you tend to get more support. So I think very much depends on the question wording.
Okay.
But in any case, you know, our allies, the United Nations, the International Atomic Energy Agency, all the countries that we negotiated with this are in favor of it, and I think it's going to go forward.
That's, Peter Brooks, in my humble opinion, that's because they want money. I mean, it's about the idea that they're starved for markets in which to sell their planes, trains, and automobiles, and food, and Apple Watches, and everything else, and here's this huge community that wants to buy stuff. So, you know, sitting on stagnant economic times, they want to sell into Iran. That's why I think other countries are in favor of it. What do you think, Peter?
I think that's a very good point, Melissa. The other fact is that going back to Jim's point quickly is that Congress, which has been briefed, you know, ad infinitum about this deal, most of them are against it. They can't even, you know, 2/3 of the Senate, and I don't even know how many in the House. So there are people who are informed about this are also against it. But your point, you make a very good point. And the other side of this is Iran is in a position now where it will enrich itself. It will start selling oil and natural gas to a greater extent on the international market. They're going to get a cash influx from the release of these frozen assets. And Iran has aspirations, and I don't think we've captured Iran's aspirations for hegemony or dominance in the Middle East and in the Muslim world. And also, I don't think we've captured their aspirations for a nuclear weapon eventually.
Nomiki, let me make a comparison for you, because Donald Trump got 5,000 people to show up in Washington today and scream how they didn't want this Iran deal. Hillary Clinton could not get that many to show up when she announced that she was running for president. What did those comparisons tell you?
Well, the comparison here is that Donald Trump is a sensationalist and is a master of media, and he's been able to capitalize off of the fear-mongering that the right is doing right now for short-term and short-sighted politics, rather than really looking at this deal and explaining the deal, and they still haven't proposed an alternative to the deal. The deal is moving forward. For him to create a spectacle like this on Capitol Hill, this is all about politics. For Ted Cruz to ride that train...
Hillary Clinton wishes she could create this spectacle. I mean, that's what's astounding to me, is that you say he's fear-mongering, he's a maniac, you know, whatever else. He got 5,000 people to take time out of their busy day and show up, and she couldn't do that. She hasn't been able to do that at any point anywhere along the way. That's got to be really disheartening for Democrats. Jim Walsh, it does seem like it's going ahead almost no matter what. What do you make of the Trump phenomenon in spite of that? I mean, let's turn to that part of the story, because I think the Iran deal is a ship that has sailed, it feels like.
Yeah.
What do you make of the phenomenon of getting so many people out there to shout about it?
You know, it's August. It's rare that people who lead in the polls in August are the presidential nominee for either party. I think let's wait till there's some voting before we start crowning people. But, you know, I think the deal is going to go through, and I think it's not because the Europeans want money. Remember, we've had sanctions on them for a decade. If they were so desperate for money, why didn't they break earlier? No, they did this because they were concerned about the #1 issue, which is preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. This agreement does it. It's better than any other non-proliferation agreement ever negotiated in history. I think a year from now, we're going to come back and we're going to be pleased with that. There are about a million people out there screaming at the television disagreeing with you, but we got to go. Well, guys, thank you so much. David. Thank you.